Westlake Vocational College. A dark-haired, disheveled guy was looking at some information on his phone. The realization that there were only 3 days left before the 2-year deadline was very frustrating for the guy. Wang Ran was lying on the bed in his shorts, getting even more upset that he still can't feel the Holy Spirit. A girl in a pink rabbit kigurumi with a glass of bubble came into Wang Ran's room and called him. The guy was surprised again that his teacher had snuck into the men's dorm. She calmly announced that Wang Ran had an alchemy lesson today. The guy sighed and, getting off the bed, said that he was thinking of quitting his studies, since he had not yet made his way to level D. In his opinion, there is no sense in attending classes. The girl smiled and believed him that she would not send him away even because of the 2-year term. He said in frustration that the teacher would be condemned. The girl replied that it was okay and left the guy's room. Wang Ran was sadly eating his ramen and thinking about his failures. He didn't know if he could get better and protect himself. In the college auditorium, the teacher, dressed in a green suit, entered the office, holding in her hands something like a golden samovar with the symbol yin-yang. The guy with gray hair elbowed Rana and told him that the teacher had become even more beautiful. He, without expressing emotions, said that she would have been even more beautiful if she had not entered the men's dormitory. The interlocutor told him that he did not understand anything. It's called the cute side. The inscription Holy Soul Dan appeared on the demo screen. The teacher said that today they will continue to learn how to make pills. She also said that the students had already refined pills before, so it was time to practice. She winked and invited Wang Ran to try it first. He got up and went to the teacher. The gray-haired guy was thinking that Ran had never been able to do this. He didn't know what would happen this time. Ran pointed his hand at the pill-making device and after a few seconds prepared them. Everyone around looked at him in surprise. The device began to hiss. The loudspeaker announced the approach of enemy immortal cultivators. Students were asked to go to the bomb shelter. They also promised that the school's defense team would do everything possible to resist this invasion and protect the students. The teacher changed her clothes and asked Ran to take the students to the shelter. The guy tried to stop the teacher, but she assured him not to worry. She said that a classic cannon can be loaded in 2 minutes. For ordinary cultivators, this is more than enough. She also reported that a group of enemies comes every day, so to destroy them, she needs to go. Shapes appeared in the sky. They were 3 immortal A-class soul hunters. Among them was a young guy, a girl, and a middle-aged man. They tried to attack the college again, which was covered by a protective barrier. The immortals, breaking the barrier, reported that they had come for the son of the chosen. However, if it is not handed over to them, they promise to arrange a terrible massacre. Wang Ran looked at the broken barrier in surprise. What does it even matter if they can break through the protective shield? At least they are high-level cultivators. The teacher shouted to the students not to panic and went into the bomb shelter, as the S-class cannon was already loaded. The trio looked at the teacher and the other defenders. Do they really think that their technology of broken toys will be able to resist hunters? The girl said that this time, if they give them the son of the chosen one, they will not think about killing everyone. The teacher informed them that the reason they came to the slaughter was simply terrible. She started shooting at them, saying that they should stop talking nonsense and leave school or let them die. The trio, meanwhile, struck both the girl and the rest of the defenders. Wang Ran thought that everyone was trying to fight against the immortal hunters, and he could only watch and hope that they would win. What can he do? The guy with gray hair grabbed Ran's hand and told him not to be so impulsive. Even if they go to the teacher, they still won't be able to help. Ran thought, what can he do? The son of the chosen. Precisely. The excited Ran called the teacher and asked her to be careful. He ran to meet her, shouting that he could be the son of the chosen. He was hit by an attack from one of the hunters. The teacher, with tears in her eyes, shouted his name. The guy was falling to the ground, thinking that, is his life really going to end here and now? He fell to the ground and in front of him was a pale blue interface. The interface plate congratulated him, the chosen son of heaven, on the successful activation of the Holy Soul system. Wait, so Wang Ran is really the son of the chosen ones. In front of him was a blonde Nico-chan in an open suit and stockings. It was a girl system. She informed him that he was the son of the chosen ones, whom she should address as master or master. The guy pondered over her words. It seemed to him that she was lying about his being chosen. Nico-chan got up and approached the guy, informing him that since he was able to enter here, into the consciousness of the system, then so it is. The girl stroked Rana's cheek, flirting with him, calling him master. Wang Ran's nose started bleeding. Pretty girl, please don't do that. Blonde Nico-chan introduced herself as the guardian spirit of the Holy Soul system. She put her finger to her lip and asked to be called Linglong. Wang Ran pondered while looking at the polygonal sphere in front of him. He asked Linglong if this system could give him strength, to which the spirit reported that by itself, each aspect of the 9 turns of God will have special skills. However, with the current host improvement base, only the first side and 9th side are available. She looked at Ran coquettishly. The spirit suggested that he bet on luck. Maybe it could change the situation in the outside world. The guy thought hard. Given the situation in the outside world, there is no doubt that the guy will die. Remembering the face of the desperately fighting teacher, the guy agreed to Linglong's proposal. The polygonal sphere hissed. The guy thought about the fact that, as in all the novels that Ran had read, he hoped to get some superpowers. For example, an indestructible golden body, a huge amount of money, or some other skills like teleportation, mind reading, and the like. Wang Ran was pleased with his thoughts. The polygonal sphere cube spun, hissing. Wang Ran was a little worried. The number 9 fell out. Ran turned red. Linglong looked at the cube in surprise, and then took out the firecrackers and congratulated Wang Ran on acquiring the 9th rank skill. Now the owner owns the skill of sand sculpture, a strange pose in which he will not receive damage from the magic sword. Confetti scattered around the spirit of the system. Ran looked around in disappointment. Sand, a sand sculpture. What kind of useless skill? Is there something wrong with the system? Linglong sat down on a polygonal sphere and waved her hand to the owner, telling him to be careful on the way. She promised to wait for his next visit. Wang Ran fell into the abyss. Does the spirit of the system think it has a chance? When Wang Ran woke up, the tear-stained face of his gray-haired friend named Cow was in front of him. This friend reported that the teacher gave away all her pills, which she had kept for several years. Now it won't be difficult to save Van Ran's life. He took pills out of the bag and, sniffing, stuffed one into the guy's mouth, saying that if Ran died, it would be a waste. Coughing, Ran told him that this is not what people should say when saving someone's life. Seeing that the guy woke up, the gray-haired man was delighted and burst into tears even more. What happiness! Now the teacher cannot worry about Wang Ran. Ran rubbed his head and asked how the teacher and everyone else were. He saw a pink arch with a barrier where cultivators were fighting with hunters. Ran looked at his palms, which were decorated with a diamond with a 9. Now, with this strange skill, the guy will be able to help the teacher. At this time, in the midst of a fierce battle, the huntress attacked the teacher. When the girl noticed the attack, it was already too late. If it wasn't for Wang Ran, the teacher would have been hurt. However, he was able to pull her away in time. Pulling away, the guy smiled and told her that he had come to the rescue. The girl was confusedly surprised at him, but then pushed the guy away and began to scold him. What is he even doing here? Does he really think he is the son of the chosen ones? It doesn't exist at all. The guy, with tears in his eyes, shouted that he had come to the rescue. The huntress attacked Rana, but he blocked her attack with his own hands. The red ray gradually turned gray. The huntress was surprised, as was the teacher. The rest of the students opened their mouths in shock. The blue interface reported that the strange pose skill was launched. Wang Ran, standing in a very strange position, held the beam of the immortal huntress. The guy would never have thought that such a pose would actually save him. But then the guy fell to the ground. The teacher, holding an S-class weapon in her hands, ran up to the wound, asking him if he was okay. The immortal hunter cultivator stared intently at the son of the chosen. She couldn't believe that people could catch her sword with their hands. Doesn't that guy even have a holy soul? Wang Ran began to shout that he was the son of the chosen, who was being sought by immortal hunters of holy souls. The huntress didn't believe him and attacked again. Wang Ran was ready for battle. The student cultivators in shock began to shout and call for Rana and the teacher. Wang Ran grinned and shielded the teacher with his back, telling her that he would protect her. The huntress tried to attack the guy every time. However, he blocked her attacks from time to time. There were a bunch of swords stuck in the ground around him. He held one sword with his feet and 2 in his hands, and one of the swords was in his teeth. The huntress raised her eyebrows in shock and clenched her teeth. How is this possible? Is he really the son of the chosen? Ran continued to grin. The huntress clenched her fist. The hunter guy stood up for his colleague. He began to shout that people are like bugs. He believed that Ran could not possibly be the son of the chosen ones, because he did not even have a holy soul. Did the beetle decide to provoke the hunters? Wang Ran, grinning all over, beckoned the hunters to him with his finger. He was thinking that as long as Ran was the target of the hunter cultivators, the others would be able to escape. The teacher, in extreme surprise, approached the wound and asked about how he could catch the attacks of the trinity of immortal hunters. Sweat trickled down Rana's face. This is not the time to ask questions. The teacher must run away. The cultivator defender grabbed the teacher by the hand and began to pull her away from the battlefield. He informed her that the S-class weapon was almost loaded. He then offered to wait a bit while Wang Ran distracted the hunters. She screamed that she could not leave her student alone, to which Ran shouted a request that he be left alone and go to a bomb shelter. The trio was ready to attack. The young hunter reported that the death of the wound had come. The Trinity joined their energy together, forming huge energy rays. Looking at all this, Ran was drenched in streams of sweat. In the end, it will be a loss. He knelt down and hid his head, shouting requests in his head for Linglong to save him. The attack almost reached the lower part of the guy's body, but suddenly, an explosion occurred, leaving behind thick smoke. When it began to dissipate, the hunters bulged their eyes and opened their mouths in shock. The same thing happened with the students. The teacher, with tears in her eyes, was also in shock. The interface reported that the strange pose skill was activated. Wang Ran was lying on his knees in the same position. Only his pants were torn, exposing his soft spot. The teacher fell to her knees and began to cry out loud, rejoicing that Wang Ran was alive. The guy was very confused. The cultivator defenders began to attack the immortal hunters. A middle-aged male hunter informed the young comrades in arms that it was time for them to leave, since the advantage was not on their side. The trio tried to dodge the attacks. The adult hunter told them to stop, as it was a waste of time. The young hunter flashed his eyes, telling Rana that he remembered him. The students rejoiced at Wang Ran's victory. They asked him if he was hurt while blocking such attacks. Wang Ran showed himself great. The cultivator students threw the guy into the sky with joy. Ah, that's what it means to be a hero. After a while, Ran shouted to his friend Cow to let him go, as his waist hurts. In the classroom, the teacher asked if everything was alright with the guy's waist or if he should still rest. Ran squinted and put his hands on his hips, saying that everything was fine with him, because he was a man. Standing between Cow and Ran, the girl, looking at the golden device with interest, offered to look at the results of the guy in the pill device. Cow smiled, waiting for the results. Wang Ran was very nervous. Beads of sweat were running down his face. He asked Linglong in his heart for the opportunity to roll the dice again. Embarrassed, Linglong sat in front of the owner, resting her chest against his face. She was surprised that the guy called her so quickly. Does the master miss Linglong? The guy, pouring streams of sweat, asked her to roll the dice again. The guardian spirit agreed and immediately began to reproduce a polygonal sphere cube. However, she reminded her master that today was his last attempt. She asked the guy if he was sure he wanted to use her. The guy clenched his fist and smiled in agreement. He didn't expect the system to be so useful at all. Wang Ran's life is about to change. The number 1 was displayed on the cube. The girl raised her hand up and congratulated her master on obtaining one of the 9 skills called 100%. Wang Ran, without expressing emotion, asked the system spirit about this skill. She smiled coquettishly and said that this skill will allow her master to do whatever he wants with a 100% chance. That's why the skill is called that. Linglong walked closer to the already embarrassed guy, whose face was flooded with blush. Taking him by the collar, the girl informed him that everything was fine. Even if he asked Linglong about something very interesting, she would not be able to refuse. Excited, sweating and blushing, the guy approached Linglong, but then ran away from her, thinking about the teacher. He shuddered, looking at the audience. It's time to show your abilities. He smiled and stretched out his hand to the pill device, activating the skill 100% for success in alchemy. The device lit up and hissed. Steam began to stand out from it. It doesn't seem to have worked out. The teacher decided that the guy was tired and offered him a break. Cal supported him, stroking his shoulder. Other students were crying, feeling sorry for the guy. Poor Wang Ran, he's so tired of fighting. They shouted that everything would be fine, even if the guy would never be able to make pills. They promised to respect him anyway. Ran grunted and the device opened, releasing a ball of steam. The device was flooded with golden light. The teacher opened her mouth in shock. Cow couldn't contain his delight. The teacher screamed in shock. Did the guy really make a whole furnace of holy soul pills? Cow also shouted, more and more surprised, because even if you are a highly skilled alchemist, it is impossible to create about 300 pills at a time. They could smell it. This smell indicated that these were high-quality holy soul pills. Everyone was surprised. Did Wang Ran make them? The students lined up in a row, begging Wang Ran to try new holy soul pills. The guy, smiling, handed them out to everyone. Already in his men's dorm room, Wang Ran realized that even after handing out to all the students, he had about 200 holy soul pills left. The guy was thinking that this time he would be able to practice the holy soul. He stuffed several pieces into his mouth at once, even choked. He began to knock on his chest to swallow the holy soul pills as soon as possible. Rays of reddish energy formed around him. Wang Ran's body was engulfed in heat. He was sweating all over. Then the energy began to soak into his body, causing terrible pain. It was so painful for him, as if his body was pierced by thousands of needles. He was sweating profusely, thinking about whether this means that the Holy Soul pill has taken effect. After a while, the pain passed. In fact, the guy didn't feel the Holy Soul at all. Darkness. The guy began to beat the bed with his fists. He decided that he would not believe it and began to stuff huge handfuls of pills into himself. The body was again permeated with red energy and covered with heat. Then there was a hellish sharp pain, which the guy tried hard to endure. A crystal diamond of red color began to form from the fragments of energy. The guy was lying on the bed covered in sweat. He still couldn't feel the Holy Soul's energy. He got out of bed and strained his fist, concentrating his strength in it. Wang Ran began to violently beat the wall with his fist. It crashed into a huge hole. The guy was shocked to realize that he already has a Class D spiritual force. But why doesn't he still have a Holy Soul? The guy fell to his knees and took the photo in his hands, where he was depicted much younger, holding an insect net in his hands. And next to him was a girl with 2 pink bunches on her head named Xiao Qin. The guy hugged the photo to him and begged Xiao Qin to wait for him. He promised her to become stronger to save her. The door to Wang Ran's room opened a crack. A teacher peeked out from behind her, who was surprised to ask Wang Ran about what had happened. The guy was still sitting on his knees, but already in tears. He reported that he has already broken through the D class, but he still does not have a Holy Soul. The teacher, comforting, stroked Wang Ran on the head, telling him that all people are different. She smiled and told him not to get upset. Suddenly he's just different. Wang Ran's eyes sparkled with joy. Is the teacher hinting that the guy is actually a genius? The girl excitedly sat down next to him on the floor. Thinking about it, she reported that they say that for every 100,000 people born on Earth, there are those who cannot awaken the Holy Soul. She believed that there was a possibility that Wang Ran could be that unfortunate 100,000th. Ran began to shed even more tears, telling the teacher that her words break the guy's heart. Abruptly, Kao burst into Rana's room, informing him that things were bad. The teacher looked at the guy with surprise. Ran did not express any emotions. Kao reported that 2 students from the Bluebird Academy were waiting outside Rana College, who had come to ask for Wang Rana's challenge. The trio from Bluebird Academy were waiting for Wang Ran at the campus gate. The guy, meanwhile, together with the teacher hid against the wall, considering opponents. The academy guy in the middle was dangerous. A Class D tiger formed from the energy near him. This guy had hair just below his ears and was wearing a plaid shirt. Next to him was a red-haired guy in a cap and loose clothes, as well as an older man with a long tail and glasses, dressed in a shirt and tie. Wang Ran, looking at them, realized that they were all from the D class. Although Ran has already broken through, but he also has a D class strength. The guy decided that since he didn't have a soul, he would most likely lose. Either. Ran shouted to the teacher, shaking his fists, that these guys were bullying them. The girl raised her fist in approval, telling him that if they bullied Wang Ran, they were also bullying the teacher. She offered to fight them. Wang Ran, at this time, pulled the hood over his head and began to run away, telling the teacher to tell the third brother that Ran was sick and the third brother went to beat them instead of Ran. The girl remained standing with her mouth slightly open in shock, shouting to him that this was exactly what he wanted. Shining, the guy stretched out his index finger in the center, telling the teacher that, as the old proverb says, this is called the mastery of words. The teacher sighed and said she would go to the third brother for help. Wang Ran began to poke his head with his finger, calling Linglong. He asked her to wake up as soon as possible, as he made his way to the D class. Sitting on her knees, Linglong yawned sweetly and stretched. She reported that, according to the rules of the 9 turns of the God Bone, this achievement gives the owner the opportunity to use the bone. Wang Ran opened his mouth wide in shock. And why didn't Linglong tell him such an important thing earlier? Nico-chan rubbed her eyes and reported in a sweet voice that she had done this too many times and was tired. She snuggled up to her master's body and offered to take a nap together. He was all embarrassed and red as a tomato, told her to be sure to inform him about such important things. Holding his head, the guy stopped the teacher. He burst into tears and told the teacher that he just wants to deal with them. But they are ordinary people. Wang Ran didn't expect it to be a misunderstanding. The teacher stared at him in shock. What kind of nonsense is Van Ran talking about at all? He closed his eyes and revealed that he was actually a hidden master. Then the guy tripped over a rock and collapsed to the ground. She grinned. Wang Ran is definitely a hidden master. The students of the Bluebird Academy all called Wang Ran to the arrow. With a strange gait, Wang Ran finally came out to them. He got very close to the guy in the plaid shirt. Near the guys, everything was already sparkling with tension. This guy said that he was just looking for Wang Ran, and then began to introduce himself to him. Ran, picking his nose, interrupted the guy from the academy, saying that whatever his name was, Wang Ran would call him Triangular Eyes. This nickname led the academy student into a terrible rage. Triangular Eyes. Seriously, the guy promised to teach Wang Ran a good lesson. Suddenly he was stopped by a guy with glasses. He turned to the teacher and informed her that duels were commonplace for them at the Holy Soul Academy. However, he decided that the rules of the duel should be discussed in advance. According to the rules of the duel, both sides must agree. Regardless of victory or defeat, no one should blame each other. The teacher convinced the man with glasses that she knows and therefore he does not need to worry about it. Then he pressed his glasses to the bridge of his nose and turned to the guy with triangular eyes. He started shouting at him, calling the wound garbage. He then informed that if Triangular Eyes didn't react, then the academy would simply ignore this duel. At this time, the teacher encouraged Wang Ran, telling him that they were not very strong guys, so he should not be afraid. The teacher believed in Wang Ran. He hit his chest with his fist, telling the teacher that he would not let her down. The guy was thinking to himself, asking Linglong to roll the dice again. Linglong and the pale blue interface were in front of him again. The polygonal sphere cube, which was a bone, showed the number 8 that fell out. Linglong informed her master that he had opened the 9th side of the 9-sided god bone, and the master also received the skill 008. This skill was called Big Mouth. Anyone who attacks Wang Ran will be counterattacked and punished. Wang Ran blushed and scratched his chin. He really liked this skill. However, he hoped that he would not kill the student of the Bluebird Academy by him. Linglong pulled the guy out of his thoughts by hugging him. She began to flirt with him again, and he backed down. He promised her that he would do everything next time, even though it wasn't true. Triangular Eyes pointed his finger at Wang Ran and shouted to him that the guy was a loser, and the student would now teach him how to behave properly. Ran was confident. He folded his hands, hurrying the guy. He was looking forward to his next actions. Triangular Eyes attacked him using flaming skills. However, Wang Ran dodged, and the attack of the Triangular Eyes flew past. Ran attacked the guy and hit him in the face, knocking out his tooth. Triangular Eyes flew away towards his companions. Wang Ran smiled, waving his hand away. Alas, the chicken is too weak. The teacher stood in shock. Had Wang Ran been pretending to be weak for 13 years? Someone called the girl, and she turned around. There was a group of guys standing in front of her. Among them was Cao, who brought other guys. Han Yuan, Chen Xiaopo, Zhang Xiaoman, and Wang Qingwen. They reported that they had heard news about 3 opponents. The guys immediately asked how Wang Ran was feeling. The nervous teacher pointed her finger at the battle and said that it was not easy to describe. It was better for them to just see for themselves. Triangular Eyes, wiping snot from his face, asked Rana about how he dared to humiliate him. He was surprised and asked the guy if he hadn't humiliated himself. Triangular Eyes attacked again with his fiery skills, asking not to blame him for being rude. Wang Ran counterattacked the guy again. Time after time, he struck the Triangular Eyes on his face. He fell to the ground, blowing snot. The student and teacher of the Bluebird Academy were shocked. The teacher and the rest of the college kids were also extremely surprised by Wang Ran's strength. The man with glasses started shouting that Wang Ran had gone too far. A duel is a duel. How can he humiliate other students? Wang Ran gave him a deadpan look, informing him that Triangular Eyes attacked him every time he got up. Did the man not see how Ran took the initiative? He began to shout that the guy couldn't do it at all then. Ran, picking his nose, told him that he couldn't help himself, as his hands were itching a little today. Wang Ran's words angered the man in earnest. He took a huge sword from somewhere and attacked the guy, shouting that he would destroy Wang Ran and teach him a lesson. Ran began to stretch his arm, smiling and asking the teacher to check him. He then counterattacks him, knocking the glasses off his face. The result was the same with the teacher of the Bluebird Academy. The students of the academy were terrified. Ran waved his hand and invited them to come again. The students, shouting something after them, ran out of the college. Wang Ran looked at the shocked crowd of friends in surprise. Zhang Xiaoman's younger sister, a redhead with 2 ponytails, asked her 6th brother Wang Ran, who, when bitten by a mosquito, he asked to hug the teacher, why he was so courageous. He began to shout that this had not happened. 4th sister Wang Qingwen asked him about taking any pills, since he repelled the attack from the classroom. The girl, in a black top and shoulder straps on her legs, put her hands together, waiting for an answer. Ran told her that she was exaggerating. He looked away and said that it was a strange ability of his holy soul. The green-haired guy in the body, who was the fifth brother named Pan Yuan, began to ask him about the magical skills that Ran, in his opinion, used in the fight against immortal hunter cultivators. He thought that the holy soul of Rana had raised his class. Cao, who, as it turned out, is called Chen Xiaopo's third brother, also cut into the conversation. He happily said that it was very good that Wang Ran was finally able to awaken his holy soul. Therefore, you should not overwhelm the guy with questions. The phone rang from the teacher's pocket. Ran's eyes bulged. It seems to be a special ringtone for the immortal hunting team. Out of the corner of his ear, the guy tried to listen to the girls' conversation. He was thinking that if the hunting squad had an urgent task, they would gather teachers and college students into a reserve squad. However, they are all famous academies at the Tianzong level. Why would they call the teacher? This is very bad, even too bad. After finishing the conversation, the girl reported that 3 immortals who came to hunt outside the misty forest. They killed one of their 10 immortal hunters. Friends digested the information in shock. Didn't the 3 of them go anywhere? What's wrong with them? The teacher reported that the incident was urgent and serious, so the hunting team called all the universities in Battle City. She also informed a group of students that they were ready to enter the misty forest for practice. The teacher looked very serious, even severe, even though she hesitated. Pan Yuan, Chen Xiaopo and Wang Qingwen began to ask the teacher to take them necessarily. One asked because he was the oldest, the other is because of its highest ability to survive, and the third because of their best fighting skills. Wang Ran also joined them. He wanted to go too, since he has special abilities, and also he had already dealt with the hunters this morning. The teacher sighed and told them to stop arguing. She said that each academy will send 5 students. She told Pan Yuan to stay at school, and the others will go to the forest with the teacher tomorrow. Yuan was upset. Wang Ran clenched his fist, glad that at last he would not be left behind. A warm day. The window was wide open. There was a pot with some kind of plant on the windowsill. Wang Ran, standing by the window, held a piece of paper in his hands, examining it. This piece of paper was a photo of little Rang with his sister Xiao Qin. 8 years ago, she was captured by cultivators. Wang Ran didn't know what was wrong with the girl right now. The guy was talking to the girl in the photo, telling her that he was finally going to the battlefield. And as soon as he improves his strength, he will definitely save Xiao Qin. As soon as Wang Ran left the room and entered the dormitory corridor, he heard the teacher's voice. She was going to meet him with a package full of goodies. Also, one of them was in her mouth and in her hand. The guy greeted the teacher and asked if it was time for them to go. She said that not everyone had packed their things yet. She also said that she thought that Ran might forget about breakfast, so she bought some goodies. The girl held out the bag, and the guy took a bun from it, thanking the girl. When Ran and the teacher went outside, Xiaopo leaned out of the bus window and called them. They got on the bus. The driver was an elderly man with a cigarette, next to whom the teacher sat down. Little Xiaoman sat behind her, and behind her, Qingwen was combing the girl's hair with her hand. Chen Xiaopo and Wang Ran sat in the very last seats. After a short bus ride, they found themselves at a foggy forest. There were other teams waiting for them, who came for the same reasons. The team that the guys teamed up with was a team of people from Southwest Kunlun University. The pink-haired guy introduced himself as Chen Jian. He was the dean of Kunlun Southwest University. The teacher introduced herself in response. Her name, as it turned out, was Tang Tian, and she was the principal of Westlake Vocational College. Chen Xiaopo was whispering to attract the attention of his friends. He was surprised that the students of Southwest Kunlun University were the same year as the guys. However, they are all C-class. Xiaopo was interested in one of the students of Kunlun University. It was a dark-haired guy with sparse blue strands, dressed in spacious beige-colored clothes. In the hands of this guy was a long blue spear. Wang Ran thought that the guy deserved to be the best student, and his temperament was quite arrogant. This guy paid attention to them, slightly raising his eyebrows. Casting a bored look, he asked about why such losers were called. These words of the student infuriated Wang Ran. Work with him? Is this guy not right in the head? He was ready to attack and fight with this arrogant student. However, Chen Xiaopo tried his best to restrain Wang Ran. He shouted and asked Rana to be patient in the face of a common enemy. He asked the guy not to fight him. The guy with the beard was trying to settle the conflict. He was apologizing for his brother, who, in his opinion, is not very talkative. However, he folded his arms on his chest and said that the guys were good for nothing, and were only in the D class. Can they still have something against it? While Xiaopo and that man were in shock, Wang Ran and this student were thinking hard. The loudspeaker was telling the ladies and gentlemen to be careful. They were also thanked for fighting for the land. All residents of Battle City will respect them after arriving home. While they were flying in capsules through the forest, Tang Tian asked her students about the main goal of their professional college. The guys uttered the words in unison that safety comes first, mission comes second. Their lives are of great importance, you can't risk it. The teacher raised her hand up, and they drove off. Over the loudspeaker, it was reported that there were still 50 kilometers to the place where the three immortals killed the immortal hunter from the team. They also believed that there was a good chance that the immortals would be somewhere nearby. Wang Ran was very thoughtful. He was thinking about how he had angered the immortal hunter cultivators very much yesterday. If they find out that Wang Ran is here, they will certainly kill him. The ship shook. They hooked something that looked like a hillock. Large ants were crawling around the ship, which were ready to attack. Teacher Tang Tian told the guys to be careful. After assessing the situation, the girl realized that this could not continue, and then she ordered everyone to get out of the car and get ready for battle. After getting out of the cars, the teams lined up in a defensive scheme. In the first line, students stood on the sides. On the left, Xiaopo and Ran. On the right, a bearded uncle and his arrogant brother. Tang Tian and Chen Jian stood in the center. In the second line were Qingwen and Xiaomen, as well as the twins of Southwest Kunlun University. Chen Jian informed Tang Tian that there were man-eating ants everywhere. They must prepare for battle. Everyone took out their weapons. Ran had a huge broadsword. Tang Tian has an S-class rifle. Qingwen armed herself with 2 sharp blades. Noticing the movement on the right, she shouted to the rest of the guys about it. Mutant ants were flying at the dark-haired arrogant guy. Their eyes shone with a bright green light. They were ready to attack. The guy stumbled, but then jumped up, counterattacking the ants with his spear in response. The spear lit up with a bright blue light. His blow was so strong that there was even a bright blue explosion. Xiaopo was delighted with this guy's skills and powerful strength. Wang Ran reacted calmly. He thought that, although this guy's character leaves much to be desired, but the strength is admirably huge. Xiaomen covered her mouth with her hand in shock. Can this guy really hit 3 ants at once? Qingwen stood thoughtfully, not expressing emotions. The teacher ordered the children to be divided into small teams of 2 people. Wang Ran was supposed to be helping teacher Tang Tian. He immediately ran to the teacher, smiling. Why was she so kind to him? She turned around and said with a smile that it was because Wang Ran was a waste for the others. The girl didn't want to worry about the guy being in everyone's way. She also didn't want Ran to drag the other guys down. He opened his mouth in horror and shock. Does he look so bad in the eyes of teacher Tang Tian? The girl ignored Wang Ran and began to climb the trees gradually. Climbing onto a high and sturdy branch, the girl looked around, and then she fired her S-class shotgun. A shot of a bright pink laser pierced through 2 heads of mutant ants at once. Wang Ran admired the teacher and considered her very beautiful at such moments. Chen Xiaopo suggested that the others not panic, but help teacher Tang Tian. Ran, not listening to Xiaopo, ran to help the teacher. He, holding his huge cleaver behind his back, stepped on the ant's back. He was initially discouraged, but then became angry. Everything was flooded with his green energy. The ant attacked Wang Ran's leg. The guy was in insanely pain. He fell to the grass, holding his leg. The ant was ready to attack again. However, at that moment Xiaomen came to the rescue, cutting the ant with her sword. After that, the girl stuck out her tongue and joked about the wound. Even she copes with such monsters, and they put Wang Ran's 6th brother well. He began to deny it in embarrassment. He began to tell her that maybe he wanted the girl to sort them out. In his opinion, the children did not understand anything. Behind Rana, another ant attacked. Xiaomen shouted to him, warning him about it. He swung his sword, attacking the ant. The green-eyed insect, although it flew away, was clearly in anger. Rana's blows didn't do much damage to the ant, although the guy has a D-class strength, but due to the fact that he did not awaken his holy soul, Wang Ran's strength is twice as low as it should be. The rest of the guys struggled with the ants. Xiaopo shouted to Rana not to be distracted, but to help them. Ants swarmed around the guys that not even a meter of the picturesque forest could be seen. The pack of ants was ready to attack the teams of student cultivators. The Westlake Professional College team shared the rootstock. Xiaomen and Qingwen were together. One had a large sword, and the other had 2 blades. In the second team were Ran and Xiaopo. Ran had a huge cleaver sword, and Xiaopo had a fire sword. The flames of this sword shimmered beautifully in the hands of Chen Xiaopo. Other teams from the Southwestern University of Kunlun, namely, an arrogant guy with his burning blue spear and a bearded man with some bright burning like a phoenix weapon. And in the second team there were blonde twins with golden brass knuckles, which had sharp spikes on them. There was a fierce battle. Wang Ran could no longer continue like this. He looked around at the other guys, whose strength was also clearly running out. He was dripping with sweat. The guys were breathing heavily. There were even scratches. They, too, are no longer able to fight them. The guys were on edge. Wang Ran, holding the weapon tightly in his hand, walked towards the crowd of ants. The guys were shouting, trying to stop the guy, but he didn't listen to them at all. The system interface was highlighted, informing that the owner is in a dangerous situation. It was also reported that the God Dice system was activated urgently. Linglong appeared in front of the beaten Wang Ran. She gently stroked her fingers over the guy's ears and chest. She looked at him in surprise, and then asked the guy about why he was in such a state, because they hadn't seen each other for just a day. Linglong treasured her master's body very much. As soon as he realized it, he recoiled from the spirit of the system, warning her not to do anything with him. Then he asked me to stop saying such ambiguous words all the time. She chuckled, turning away from him and calling the owner boring. She informed him that she would very much like to go beyond the system barrier and find some interesting brother for happiness. He opened his mouth in shock and said that now was not the time to chat. He told her that he wanted to use the Bone of God. Linglong immediately channeled her powers and formed a three-dimensional diamond-shaped figure. Then she winked and, smiling, told her master Wang Ran congratulations. He got the 9th side of the dice, a sculpture made of sand. Ran thought about it. Can't the system give him something new? However, the sand sculpture skill really worked last time. Skill 15. Farter is invincible, to activate which you had to touch your soft spot, and the strength of attack and defense will increase several times within 2 minutes. Wang Ran attacked the ants, fiercely dealing with them. After learning about this skill, the guy did not understand what was wrong with the creator of this system. The guy still couldn't stop being ashamed. Madly tired, Chen Xiaopo glanced at Wang Ran. He, terribly red, slapped himself on the soft spot, surprising even the ants. The guy closed his confused eyes. Don't tell me he enjoyed it. Xiaopo made a remark to Rana. What is he doing at all? This is a battlefield. Ran cast a confident glance, and he himself sparkled with a reddish light around. Didn't anyone realize that the Thunder Lord was about to appear? Wang Ran was filled with bright red energy. He attacked the monsters again, chopping them into pieces. Has he become that strong? The red power in the guy's body was beating with a key. Even sparks sparkled from his eyes. Wang Ran shouted, asking the monsters to keep fighting. While teacher Tang Tian was taking heads off with her gun, hiding on a tree branch, Wang Ran was fiercely fighting with his sword in the form of a huge cleaver. After finishing with the ants, Ran coquettishly removed his hair from his face and asked the teacher if she had seen what he was doing. However, he did not even have time to finish, as a leaf of a tree flew into his face. The teacher did not comment on this in any way. Ran was red as a cancer from embarrassment, but at the same time angry. This sheet ruined such a moment when Ran was so magnificent in front of his teacher for the first time in his life. The leaf burst into pieces in the hands of the guy. Ran began to fight fiercely with the ants again. Ordinary failures will not be able to stop him on his way to the goal. Chen Xiaopo was extremely surprised. And when did Wang Ran become so strong? To which he said, smiling in all 32 teeth, that it was a mysterious force from the ass. Xiaopo began to ask Ran what kind of skill it was. He told his brother that less words, more deeds. They were surrounded by a flock of ants again. Now is not the time to be distracted by such a thing. The ants attacked again. The attack was like something electric. Wang Ran pushed his brother Xiaopo away as he thought this attack was very dangerous. An electric beam of ants hit him, forcing him to be protected from current discharges. He even dropped his weapon. The guy fell to the ground. Xiaopo knelt beside him, crying. He sniffed and tried to ask the guy if he was okay. At this time, teacher Tang Tian appeared. She was all sparkling with purple-pink energy. Having changed the magazine of cartridges, the stern girl went to meet the ants. How dare these monsters bully her students? She attacked mutant ants. A bright beam knocked down a bunch of ants, leaving behind a soft pink explosion. The teacher ran up to Xiaopo and ran, wondering how the latter was feeling. Tian hovered in front of her student, asking him about what happened to him. Wang Ran, waking up, was in shock. He instantly blushed and was embarrassed. Ran, slightly stuttering, reported that he was fine, as he was only touched by an electric discharge on his chest. The teacher hovered over him, wondering if he was hurt too much. Does the guy's chest hurt? Ran smiled gently, opening his arms. He told teacher Tang Tian that he would feel a little better if the girl hugged him. However, the embarrassed teacher punched the guy on the cheek and called him a fool. When Ran stood up, rubbing the lump on his head, Tian thought. She reported that the force of this thunder was quite large. But the strange thing was that Wang Ran's clothes were not even touched. The guy, stuttering, began to justify himself. He said that he did not know why he was not hurt. He suggested that the ants were simply too weak. About himself, Ran suggested something else. Apparently, he was not hurt since his defense was doubled twice. However, the guy didn't know how to explain it to the others at all. The girl gave up and decided not to dig into it anymore, and also told the guys to deal with the rest of the ants. Xiaopo slapped the guy on the shoulder, asking him to destroy these monsters. He agreed, but asked the guy to do something. Wang Ran quietly asked Xiaopo to bend over, as he had something to do. He was embarrassed and began to ruffle the guy's hair. He was surprised that they had known each other for so long, but Xiaopo didn't know about this perverted side of Wang Ran at all. He smiled shyly and said that, although he would not believe it, but in fact it could help Chen Xiaopo. And then he slapped the guy on the buttocks. Wang Ran's entire body sparkled with red light again. He shouted with joy that his strength had returned to him again. The embarrassed Xiaopo was extremely surprised that Ran, touching his soft spot, really became stronger. Ran fought fiercely with the ants, slowly getting rid of them. He thought that although the skill farter invincible could help him, but there were a lot of these ants. Just countless. The guys aren't going to die here, right? Xiaomin was on her last legs. Her whole face was covered in sweat. She was breathing heavily, begging the third and sixth brother to help her. The girl could no longer fight. I didn't have any strength at all. Chen Xiaopo shouted to Zhang Xiaomin that he was rushing to her aid. A smiling Ran informed her that there was one thing the girl had to help them with. She asked in surprise. Ran said he didn't have time to explain and asked Xiaopo to help him spank her. He held the girl so that she would not break away. She confusedly asked them what the guys were going to do. Xiaopo comforted Xiaomin, telling her that everything was fine, since Xiaopo's brother had also gone through this right. Ran, at this time, gave her a good slap on the soft spot, and then thanked her and promised to buy her a new skirt on arrival home. She screamed and called the guys perverts. Wang Ran has become even stronger. He began to get rid of ants instantly. How good that the buff of this skill is invincible. After cutting another monster, Ran realized that the earth began to shake. It shocked him. The huge queen of ants crawled right out of the ground. The guys were shoved in different directions due to a powerful blow against the queen's body. A huge queen of ants appeared before the eyes of the guys, near which a huge crowd of drones gathered. Xiaopo and Xiaomin backed down while Wang Ran fought. He was thoughtful. Isn't the ant queen the final boss, so to speak? He thought that he would obviously not be able to defeat her just like that, since the strength of this queen of ants can be compared with the strength of the immortals. Wang Ran stopped and froze when he saw the sparkling electric attack of a huge ant. She almost hit the guy. However, at that moment, Teacher Tang Tian fired. Her frosty shot began to block the queen's electric attack. From the force of the blow, Ran fell to the ground. The teacher immediately ran up to him to find out if the guy was okay. He responded positively to this. The pink-haired dean told the students of Kunlun University to attack together. The guys began to strike at the huge monster from different sides. The twins were shining bright yellow rays from their brass knuckles, and the arrogant dark-haired man was sticking his spear, from which there was a bright blue and powerful force. The bearded guy was just preparing for the attack, gathering his energy and strength together. The sun appeared above his head, like a dial with Roman numerals. The arrogant boy began to move abruptly, simultaneously telling the 8 treasures of Zun to fulfill his wish. Wang Ran didn't expect this. It turns out that the arrogant guy named Chen Wai only looked strong, but is actually a support. The guy attacked the Queen of Ants again, aiming at her head. He almost hit her, but she still didn't react in any way, except anger. Wai's attack didn't even scratch the Ant Queen. This amazed him to the depths of his soul. However, because of this, the guy almost lost his vigilance. While he was almost attacked, the bearded guy knocked Wai down, saving him. Kingwen saw them and asked if they were okay. Chen Wai reported that he had only minor bruises. Teacher Tang Tian looked at what was happening and tried to assess the situation. It seemed to her that there was something wrong. Even though man-eating ants attack people, but they don't fight to the end. The pink-haired dean from Kunlun University said that because of the current situation, regardless of the reason, they should get rid of the queen of man-eating ants. At this time, Wang Ran shouted to Teacher Tang that they had no time to think about the reasons. He believed that they needed to attack the queen. As soon as they got rid of her, the guys would have a chance to survive. The teacher became serious and raised her fist up, telling Ran that he was right. She believed that Ran was very strong and his fighting power was only growing. She told him that if Wang Ran had a way to get even stronger, then he should do it. Perhaps this way he can defeat the queen of the man-eating ants. Tang Tian began to divide the guys into small tasks in order to clear Wang Ran's way, and also instructed Kingwen to go along with Ran. and Xiaopo and Xiaoman should help the teacher there. Chen Jian informed teacher Tang that they, as teachers, should take responsibility for the safety of students. Teachers can't risk their lives. The girl smiled and informed her colleague that they had no other options. At such moments, they, as teachers, should trust their students. Wang Ran appeared behind Qingwen and Tian, who slapped the girls on their soft places. They were red as tomatoes because of embarrassment. Before the girls had time to recover, Ran, all red from the power raging in him, ran on, thanking teacher Tan for trusting him. He said that this was the only way he could increase his full power, and then apologized. Having come to their senses, the girls began to be indignant, holding on to their buttocks. The rosy-cheeked teacher asked him why he did it. Qingwen promised him to remember it. The following Wang Ran took turns spanking the students and the dean of Kunlun Southwest University, who were standing in a row at that time. The red light engulfed Wang Ran completely. He felt a powerful force flowing through his body. Tang Tian gave the command to launch an attack. She began to fire a chilling frosty attack from her weapon. Qingwen, at this time, shouted to Wang Ran's sixth brother that she would lead the ants away from the queen, and the guy should attack at this moment. Preparing to attack, Ran jumped, leaving behind his red powerful energy force. He attracted everyone's attention by threatening his strength by countless twos. How much stronger has he become? The queen of the man-eating ants also did not stand aside. She attacked again with her electric laser. However, Rana's red attack held back the queen's power. Wang Ran tensed even more. Huge drops of sweat were running down his face. The red ray almost reached the ant queen. It seems he was able to defeat the queen ant. The ant queen was defeated. The little drones gradually ran away so that they would not be killed as well. Wang Ran stood beside the ant queen, examining her. The others were shocked and delighted that Ran had defeated her. Wang Ran ran his hand over his face, removing the green ant queen liquid from it. However, the queen's blood seemed strange to him. He called the fourth sister to take a look. This green liquid was cold, as if it had cooled down for a long time. The guys took a closer look at the belly of the queen ant. There was a small piece of paper with hieroglyphs attached to it. Is there some kind of spell on it? Suddenly this leaf with a spell lit up and the guys moved aside. Bright orange energy stabbed into the ant's belly, splashing out a fountain of its green liquid. Then, in front of them, one by one, the students of the Southwest Kunlun University began to appear, who attacked the body of the queen ant. The arrogant guy almost touched Wang Ran at all. Through the thick clouds of smoke, teacher Tang Tian appeared with her S-class weapon, who told Wang Ran and Qingwen to retreat as quickly as possible, since immortal cultivators had come to them. Wang Ran, sitting on the ground, raised his head, extremely surprised. In front of him were the same trio of immortal hunter cultivators. In the center stood a young cultivator who was very unhappy with what had happened earlier. His face directly expressed hatred for the wound. Next to him was a cultivator girl who was smiling maliciously as she looked at the commands. And behind him was a middle-aged man who was also an immortal cultivator. Wang Ran, seeing them, smiled slyly, asking them if they missed the guy. The pink-haired Dean Chen Jian began to shout, asking Ran about why he was provoking cultivators, because everyone was terribly tired after that battle. He asked him to stop provoking them. Wang Ran, meanwhile, was thinking about something else. He understood that the young cultivator would not let them go just like that anyway, because after the morning battle, he was in a terrible rage. The young cultivator with a fiery hairstyle began to attack, shouting that everyone would die today. He had a sword in his hands, as well as a large number of pieces of paper with spells that he scattered on his way. The immortal cultivator's eyes shone with a bright light. He was about to swing at Rana, however, at that moment a bearded student from Kunlun University arrived, who applied the wish fulfillment of the 8 treasures of Zun. A large yellow shield formed near Wang Ran, which saved him from the attack of an immortal cultivator. Ran smiled and thanked the guy for his help. Ran realized that this buff not only doubled the effects, but also increased the time. He believed that it should have been enough with his head to fight this cultivator. Wang Ran attacked him, hitting him in the stomach so hard that he even spat out blood. This action of the wound angered the cultivator even more. He was all lit up with fiery energy and his eyes burned with an even brighter light. He shouted loudly that the students were all trash who deserved only death. Wang Ran smiled broadly as he prepared to attack. He began to bring out the emotions of this cultivator even more, although he himself thought that the situation was becoming critical. He began to ask Linglong to help him. Linglong came up behind the embarrassed and crimson wound, informing him that she was always ready to provide her body to the owner. He pushed her away, thinking that he couldn't do anything wrong with the system. She began to whine and sigh, indignant why men are so boring now. Then Linglong, puffing out her cheeks and sighing again, took out the polygonal god bone and reported that the owner of the wound had one last attempt left for today. After a while, Linglong and Wang Ran looked at the results of the thrown dice. Linglong reported that her master had the skill 100%. Wang Ran thought about it. Will this skill of 100% help him in this case? Well, it's time to check it out. Wang Ran began to fill with his reddish powerful energy force. Linglong reported that the speed of the host was increased by 50%. That is, the speed of the cultivator was copied by 100%. The immortal cultivator at this time was also filled with his powerful fiery energy. Ran began to run away from him very quickly, inflaming him even more. He shouted to him that if he was a man, then let him fight with the wound one-on-one. The cultivator also smartly followed him, trying to grab him with his hand. He screamed at Rana, calling him a disgusting ant that couldn't do anything to him. Ran moved quickly, not letting the immortal cultivator catch up with him. He was thinking that this buff is incredible. Wang Ran's speed could now be compared to that of a class. The immortal cultivator attacked the guy with his sword, but he evaded him with unprecedented ease. The cultivator looked at the guy in horror. Beads of sweat were running down his face. How was Wang Ran able to dodge his attack at all? To which the guy replied with a smile that he just took and dodged. And then he asked the cultivator how he felt. The other students looked on in horror, but then immediately began to support Wang Ran. Xiaopo held up his finger and told him that Ran was worthy of being the #1 mockery master. Qingwen told him that she thought he was the #1 idiot. Xiaoman looked at what was happening in shock, and teacher Tang Tian whispered to Wang Ran why he was joking these ridiculous jokes. The immortal cultivator became even more angry because of Wang Ran's words. His energy made his whole body glow with iridescent fire. He shouted to Rana that if he didn't kill him today, it would be a waste of cultivator practice for many years. He began to attack the guy, trying to hit him with the rays of his energy. However, he only hit the ground. Ran was shouting at him that, actually, it was his turn to attack the cultivator. Ran, holding his weapon in his hands, began to move towards the immortal cultivator. He was behind him and started swinging at him while he was still trying to attack the wound. The cultivator noticed late that Wang Ran was behind him. Wang Ran shouted to him that today he would feel his own bullying. Then the guy hits the cultivator's back with his cleaver. He screams in pain and steps back, realizing the thick clouds of dust. The cultivator looked at the guy in horror with his burning eyes, asking about what had just happened. He was in terrible shock that Ran was actually able to dodge all of his attacks. In front of him was Wang Ran, all intertwined with energy, who informed him that the cultivator was simply too slow. The immortal cultivator decided not to lose his composure. He began to focus his energy in one place again. His eyes lit up even brighter. He reported that some pathetic ant forced the guy to use this technique. He began to whisper something in an unknown language, with which hieroglyphs were written on leaves with spells. He formed a huge ball of his energy power from a small sphere and raised it above his head. This orange ball was covered around with fiery lightning and sparkled all over. Wang Ran looked at it all very calmly. The cultivator shouted to Wang Ran that it was his time to die. He attacked the guy by dropping this ball on him. There was an explosion similar to an atomic one, but slightly smaller in size. However, this explosion was just as eerie and devastating. Students and teacher Tang ran away from the epicenter of the explosion. Qingwen pulled Chen Xiaopo with her, and teacher Tang Tian helped Xiaoman escape. When they moved away, Xiaoman began to cry. This cultivator seemed too strong to her. Crying, she asked the teacher if the sixth brother Wang Ran was injured. She carefully looked at the explosion and thought, and then told Xiaoman that, in theory, he shouldn't have, since Wang Ran is very fast and therefore, most likely at that moment, he was able to evade the attack. These words were given to the teacher very hard. She was so worked up that even her voice was quite confused. When the smoke and fire disappeared, there was only bare ground at the site of the explosion. And next to the explosion site, an immortal cultivator was floating in the air. He chuckled and said that an ant would always be just an insect. However, in front of him was almost unharmed Wang Ran, who was smiling. He asked the cultivator to repeat his words, referring to the fact that, allegedly, the wind was too strong and therefore the guy did not hear anything. Covered in mud, Wang Ran stood and smiled. His energy was concentrated entirely in his legs. The cultivator, covered in blood, looked at the guy in shock. Had he dodged again? He frowned at the center and thought about what to do next. There was only one solution. He decided that it was worth retreating faster since Wang Ran was too strong. The cultivator began to try to escape. However, Ran followed him, teasing him and asking about the upcoming escape. He was serious and tried not to be distracted. The cultivator was only thinking about escaping. But Wang Ran was much faster. He was already behind the immortal cultivator, swinging his cleaver. Wang Ran told him that if he hunts others, then he should be ready to become a victim himself. The cultivator turned around in fright. However, at this moment, Wang Ran lowered his sword towards the cultivator and chopped off his head. The lifeless, headless body of the immortal cultivator fell to the ground dead, and Ran landed next to him. He was breathing heavily, thinking that it was finally over. It would be embarrassing for him if Wang Ran lost consciousness during the battle. A woman's voice was heard calling Wang Ran. Teacher Tang Tian was running towards him, her face expressing terrible anxiety. She ran up to the guy and put her arm around his arm, pressing her chest against it. She asked Ran about his well-being. He was all red and confused and told her that everything was fine. However, he then started telling his teacher that he was so tired during the battle, and then asked Tang Tian to hug him with all her love. The girl, terribly flushed, pushed the guy away, shouting to him that he was at it again. After a short period of time, Wang Ran was resting by the tree while the others were solving urgent matters. Teacher Tang Tian instructed Qingwen to check the surroundings around and then find a good place to camp. The most important criterion was, of course, safety. The pink-haired Dean Chen Jan assigned Lin Tian and Mighty Wu to be responsible for guarding the surrounding area. He told them that if they found the enemy, they should not engage in battle. They should report this to the group immediately. Meanwhile, Wang Ran was communicating with the guardian spirit of the Linglong system. She was very happy that the owner had returned and now she could finally chat with him. She was gradually getting closer to him. At first, she just stroked her master Wang Ran's hair and then hugged him at all. He again became indignant, asking the spirit of the system to stop it. And then he asked Linglong about how things were going with that polyhedral cube. Confused, Nico-chan, who is the spirit of the system, stood in front of her master and reported interesting news. Because Master Wang Ran was able to kill an immortal cultivator, the god bone was able to get an improvement. She also reported that a new skill of the third facet called I Will Shine was awakened. Then Linglong suggested to her master to roll the dice right now. Wang Ran, listening to all this, thought deeply. Sweat trickled down his face. This skill didn't seem too reliable to him. An excited Wang Ran asked Linglong about what advantages this skill could give. She perked up and began to talk about him. She said that the skill I Will Shine literally allows the owner to emit light from the body. The spirit of the system also reported that as the host discovers new faces, the number of dice rolls will also increase. The girl was enthusiastically crucified in front of her master. He just sighed and said that he realized that this skill I Will Shine is completely useless. Suddenly, the guardian spirit of the Linglong system pressed her elastic chest against her master Wang Ran's face. She, embarrassed, with tears in her eyes, almost crying, began to tell her master that his luck was very high. Even if he did not think so, wouldn't Wang Ran be able to get a better skill? Does Master Wang Ran think that Linglong is useless? However, Wang Ran felt strange. It seemed to him that he was about to have a heart attack. She called the owner again in her affectionate voice. However, the young man began to push the spirit of the system away from him with the words that this pervert would leave him alone. While Ran was arguing with Linglong in his head, he was actually sleeping under a tree, curled up. He whispered in his sleep about Linglong not coming up to him and not sticking to him. Hearing Ran's strange mutterings, Chen Xiaopo scratched his gray-haired head and, smiling sweetly, told Xiaoman and Teacher Tang that Wang Ran was apparently sleeping very soundly. He must be tired after the battle and therefore cannot be disturbed. Xiaoman, very worried, began to ask Teacher Tang Tian about what she was worried about, that sixth brother Wang Ran had changed a lot. She was asking her if he was okay. A slightly nervous Teacher Tang Tian reported that Wang Rang's holy soul is very strange. The teacher herself did not understand the ability of the holy soul of the guy, so she could not really answer baby Xiaoman. Zhang Xiaoman began to cry, becoming even more embarrassed. She reported that Wang Rang's holy soul was definitely strange. She believed that it was because of her that the sixth brother Wang Ran became a pervert, as he slapped the girl on the soft spot. Chen Xiaopo sighed and said that not only did he spank Zhang Xiaomeng, strangely enough, but his strength increased after that. And that's why Wang Ran, according to Xiaopo, spanked a lot of people. Teacher Tang Tian smiled faintly and said that although Wang Ran looks like a fool, he has a very kind soul. She reported that the guy was doing all this because of the ability of the holy soul. At this time, Dean Chen Jan and the other guys from Kunlun University blushed terribly from embarrassment. Wang Ran, having a sweet dream, snuggled up to his blanket and muttered in his sleep that he would really like to have an interesting time with Teacher Tang Tian. Xiaopo, Xiaoman, and Tian stared at what was happening in shock, without commenting in any way. Tang Tian couldn't stand it and screamed that Wang Ran was a real pervert. After a while, Wang Ran woke up. He got up and stretched, thinking that he had had a good night's sleep and was now full of strength and energy. Teacher Tang Tian, dressed in a white top and a short black dress, came up to him, embarrassed to the limit, and handed him a sword. Then she began to explain to the guy that it was the magic weapon of that immortal cultivator. She told me to take the weapon to Rana and take it to the Weapons Research and Development Department. She said that the Russian Academy of Sciences would be able to get a lot of money or good equipment for it. The girl also added that due to the lack of people and weak security, the team of immortal hunters ordered to go to the camp, so they need to hit the road as soon as possible. During the entire conversation, Teacher Tang Tian never looked at Wang Ran because of her terrible embarrassment. She only looked away, even more embarrassed if their gazes crossed. Wang Ran was shocked by the way the teacher behaved. He stopped her when she was about to leave. He asked the girl why she looked so strange. Moreover, she had never talked to Wang Ran like that before. Teacher Tang Tian was even more confused and stammered, telling him that it would be better if he started preparing for the road as soon as possible. After some time, the teams met with a blonde, middle-aged man dressed in a red jacket and greenish trousers. His weapon was a large and long spear. This man introduced himself as Tian Gang from Northwestern Longkong University. He also said that tonight their university team will camp next to the rest of the teams. The pink-haired Dean Chen Jan introduced himself and said that his team was from Kunlun Southwest University. Then Teacher Tang Tian introduced herself and said that she was the deputy team leader of Westlake Vocational College. Tian Gang reacted strangely to the girl's words, as if he was dissatisfied with something. Then he reported that the camp was almost ready. He told Westlake College students to go to the inner part of the camp and rest there. And the perimeter of the camp, in his opinion, should be guarded in turn by the teams of the universities of Longkong and Kunlun. Suddenly, Wang Qingwen appeared behind the teacher, who was very unhappy. She said that the Westlake College team can also monitor the security of the camp. Teacher Tang also stood up for her team, who, turning to Teacher Tian, said that they also work as usual and that they do not need special care. The girl's gaze was very stern. Teacher Tian Gang grinned and reported that the misty forest is much more dangerous at night than during the day. He also added to scare the guys that ferocious animals often go hunting at night. Did the Westlake Professional College team think they could handle it? He smiled slyly again and told Teacher Tang Tian that she should have taken more care of her students. Chen Jan cleared his throat, drawing attention. He smiled excitedly and told Teacher Tian Gang that he thought Teacher Tang's words made sense. The dean of Kunlun University believed that the best way out of the situation would be if each of the universities sent 2 students to guard the perimeter. According to Chen Jan, this way the guys will interact better and become friends with each other, who will take care of each other in the future. Teacher Tian Gang smiled and told Dean Chen Jan that he was very smart. Then he said that they should do so. Chen Xiaopo, looking at this whole theatrical performance, told Ran that this gang man annoys him very much. To which Wang Ran told him to imagine what kind of facial expressions they would all have when they saw the strength of the guys of the Westlake Vocational College. All the teams followed to the camp. Teacher Tian Gang took everything out and smiled at Teacher Chen Jan. He began to ask him about how a student of Kunlun University defeated one of the cultivators. Gang rubbed his palms, praising the students of Kunlun University. He believed that, as expected from Kunlun students, only a few people were able to defeat an immortal cultivator. Then Tian Gang drew attention to the arrogant dark-haired man with blue strands. He began to say that this student looks very proud and has a look like a dragon. Gang decided that this guy is the main force for destroying cultivators. The arrogant guy cast a slightly surprised but stern look. Then Dean Chen Jan informed Teacher Tian Gang that he had misunderstood everything. That immortal cultivator was actually killed by students not from Southwest Kunlun University. The cultivator was killed by a student at Westlake Vocational College. Teacher Tian Gang started screaming in shock. He didn't understand how such a thing could be possible at all. Even if a cultivator was injured, he was almost in the bronze realm, which is equivalent to the strength of an entire class. Almost all Westlake College students are D or C grade. How could they defeat the strongest cultivator? The Westlake College team tensed up. They were very angry with the behavior and words of Teacher Tian Gang. Teacher Tang Tian looked at him sternly and said that they could not tell about it, since it was secret information about their student's holy soul. However, it was student Wang Ran from their college who beheaded the immortal cultivator. She thought it was an indisputable fact. Then the girl asked this Teacher Tian Gang to stop focusing on the students of Westlake College and Kunlun University. There was a crash and an explosion. Tian Gang was very surprised. The teachers looked up at the sky. Dean Chen Jan reported that this is a critical situation and they should prepare for battle. Over the loudspeaker, it was reported that everyone who is now guarding the perimeter should be more careful, since they found 2 immortal cultivators over the Chunliu River. Over the loudspeaker, they were asked to support the nearest team. Wang Ran looked thoughtfully at the river and thought, "Isn't the Chunliu River flowing near the student camp?" Teacher Tian Gang grinned and then smiled with all 32 teeth. He turned to Teacher Tan and said that since she had praised her students, they should now support the nearest team. He believed that now they should see everything with their own eyes. Wang Ran and the others were ready to fight. Jiang Xiaomeng stood behind everyone, armed with her sword. Next stood Chen Xiaopo, armed with his long fiery sword. Then stood Wang Ran with his cleaver and Wang Qingwen with his blades. Ran reported that they would have no problems with the help, since they were only 800 meters from their destination. Well, they should hurry up. Everyone shouted agreement in unison and followed Teacher Tang Tian, who was armed with her S-class laser rifle.